This is, like I said, to be the state auditor, and what she did not tell you is that she is the only person that has audit experience, and she's the only one who's a CPA. The other people in the other political parties, I believe, is a junior high math teacher?
Yes.
And a biology major. You know, there's nothing wrong with teaching junior high math. God bless you if you can do it. I couldn't teach junior high math. You know, biology, that's great. I mean, that's a wonderful field, but when you, how does Pam put it? When you go to get your car fixed, you want a mechanic.
Right.
You don't want an artist, you want a mechanic. I think that Pam, you will be the best auditor this state has probably seen. Thank you. I want to keep a close eye on the clock. We've got 20 minutes. I want to end right at 3:30. So, and you want to give people a break then? Is that what we want to do?
Either way.
Okay.
I'll adjust them now.
I want to reset. Yeah, I want to be real respectful of the time. So again, I'm going to put my glasses on. This is my computer right here. Thank you very much. Hang on a second. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me in the back? Good. I got a big mouth, so I'm really good at this. Let me, I wrote a quick outline here because I want to stay on task. I want to stay on task. I don't want to get off track. But one of the concerns, Randy, just good to see you, brother. One of the concerns that came up as I was speaking with the leaders in your community is that some people in the Chinese Minnesota community are still a little bit confused about how all of this works. What's the process? Okay? Don't feel bad, because there are people that have been here for generations, that were born here, their parents were born here, their grandparents were born here, their great-grandparents were born here, and they don't know how it works either. It's a very simple system to explain. I'm going to go over the basics. And if you already know this, God bless you. If you don't already know this, you're going to today. Okay, I want to stick to this. Our government is based on electing people. Simple majorities. If you get the most votes, you win the seat. Okay? Our government is broken up into levels. The very basic level, don't laugh at my handwriting. I'm going to try really hard to make this, my wife always says I need an SCH, or my spelling. Okay, no laughing at my spelling. School districts. Okay? That's the very basic level. That's about as basic as you can get in an election. You can sign up to run to be on the school board for your school. God bless those people that do, because those are the people that have to work with the curriculum and work with the teachers and work with the administrators and work with the bureaucrats, and they are the ones that have direct involvement on how your school is run. The people that serve on school districts are special people, and that's a really good way for you to get involved in your community. If you're worried about your children's future and you don't have a lot of time, you work, maybe being on a school board, running for school district might be a good start for you. After that, we have city. Now, who did this? All right, we'll go with green. After that, we have cities, C-I-T-I-E-S, and townships. Okay? PWPS. Cities and townships. This would be your city councils, your mayors. If you live in a township, it's the same type of setup. It's township supervisors. After that, you have your counties. Okay. No, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
I will try. I will try this. I'll stay with this black one. Maybe we can get a new one. After our cities and our townships, we have our counties. Okay? Our counties are next. These are called county commissioners. County commissioners. Every county has elections for them, and there's anywhere from 5 to 7 commissioners per county. This is the one level of government that most people really don't pay attention to. Thank you very much. But it's one level of government that has an enormous effect on your life. An enormous effect. Your county commissioners. They run what happens in your county. Okay? After that, we have the state level. Oh, look at that. It works. We have the state level. This is where I am. This is where I serve. On the state level, and it is modeled after the federal level. Okay? So we have school districts, that's entry level. We have cities and townships. We have counties, then we have state, and then we have federal. Okay? Now, our laws, the most powerful laws are the federal laws. A state cannot make a law that's stronger than a federal law. Do you understand? A school district cannot make a rule that violates state law. Okay? That's how the power works. Now, I said our state government is modeled after the federal government. There are 3 branches in our state government. 3 branches. By the way, I do have a degree in political science. I do. There are three branches in our state government as well as our federal government. Who knows what one of the branches is? Who can name one? No, you don't count. You're a candidate. You're signed up for one. That's automatic. Go ahead. Judicial. That's right. Judicial. All right. That's one branch. Judicial. I told you my writing would get worse the more I talk. That's the court system. Who can name one more? There's 2 more after this. Go ahead. The legislative. Very good. Legislative. That's where I serve. Legislative. That's English, trust me. Legislative branch. Now, the legislative branch is broken up into 2 houses. There's the upper house. I don't know why they call it that. That's the Senate. Okay? And then there's the lower house, which is the House of Representatives. House of Reps. Okay? I want to make sure I stay on track here. Now, this is one branch. This is the second branch. What's the third branch? Executive. Excellent. Executive. E-X-E-C-U-T-I-V-E. Who is, now you can't answer this because you already got one right. I want one more person. Who is our executive officer right now in Minnesota? Who holds the executive office? Mark Dayton. That's right. He is our governor. So for Minnesota, is Mark Dayton our governor? Okay? You guys following me? Good. Who is our executive, or I have to ask this, who is our executive officer on the federal level? President Trump. All right. Just so we know, so this is how that's modeled. After the break, I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about how laws are made and how you can influence laws. Okay? The first part of my talk, I'm going to keep my eye on the clock. The first part of the talk, all I want to do is to make sure that you understand the basics of how this all is put together. Now, I want to ask you a question though. These are the 3 that we always learn about in school. But there's really a 4th branch of government. And no, it's not the media. All right? What is the 4th branch of government? That's right, the people. The people. Because actually it should be up here with the big star. It's the people. Because in our Constitution, it says that all political power comes from the people. And it belongs to the people. You are Americans. You are the people. You have the power. And what I would really like to do is to make sure that your community here understands understands how this works and that you are able to use this to your advantage. I have a goal, a personal goal, and talking with your leaders like Ling and Jeff and Charlene and all of the rest, and Chuck, who's out sweating in a parade right now, I understand, and everyone here, I want all of your leaders. I have a personal goal. I would like to see at least one member from your community get elected to the Minnesota House or the Minnesota Senate. I really want to see that. You need a voice. You have a voice right now, but you need a stronger voice. It's not going to happen this year because we're too late into the election process. But for the 2020 session or the 2020 season, I would like nothing more than to see someone in this room, and you have to be at least 18 or 21 to do this. But I would like to see someone from your own ranks come up and do this. I can think of a few people, I won't say any names, that might be really good. That might be really good. So we have our 4 branches of government. Now I really want to focus on the state. Now I'm looking at my phone here because it's really easy for me to get off track. I want to stay on track here. Minnesota, I want to focus right now on our state level of government. How does it all work? Now Pat Anderson brought a district map, and you can see that over there. But I'm going to do this for you. This is, now nobody laugh, this is Minnesota. All right? Pretty good, huh? That's Minnesota, all right? I told you I wasn't an artist. That's really bad, isn't it? Don't take a picture of that. This is Minnesota, and we have 5.5 million people in Minnesota. Okay? That's our approximate population. Minnesota is divided up into 67 Senate districts. This is for the state. 67 Senate districts. Each Senate district has about 80,000 people in it. Each state senator serves in the Minnesota State Senate for 4 years. Got me? Follow? All right. Each Senate district, so let's say this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, 6, 7, and so forth, right? Each Senate district has a number. Now let's say Senate District 4 right here. Senate District 4 is cut in half, and you have 4A and 4B. Those are your House districts. Those are your House districts. So you all have 1 senator, and you have, depending on what district you live in, you have 1 representative for the Minnesota House. You follow me? Good. Really? Cool. All right. So we have each House district is divided up into about 40,000 people each. Okay? This is Senate District 4 right here, right? 1 senator. This is cut in half. 4A has 40,000 people. 4B has 40,000 people. And each one has 1 representative. Okay? You got it? How long are the terms for each representative? 2 years. A senator, 80,000 people, 4 years. A representative, 40,000 people, 2 years. You got it? So later, we're going to take a little bit of a break. Oh my goodness, you didn't take a picture of that, did you? I'm going to write this down right here. You see this? It says Marvin right there. That way when you look, he's the guy that drew it. You take a picture, it says Marvin. They'll say, who drew that? I say, that was Marvin that drew that. So that's how that works. Our governor, this is the legislative branch. This is the legislative branch. Now I said we are modeled after the federal system. I just want to I want to say one last thing I forgot. So we have 67 Senate districts at 80,000 people each, right? We have 134 representatives or House districts, HDs, at 40,000 people each. You got it? Okay. Now for the entire state, we have what's called constitutional offices. Constitution is T-I-T-U-T-I-O-N-A-L. Constitutional offices. Who knows what our constitutional offices are? We already said one of them, it's an executive, right? We call it the executive. There's our governor and the lieutenant governor. That's Mark Dayton, and right now it's Michelle Fishbach. She's our lieutenant governor. Should something happen to the governor, the lieutenant governor takes his spot. It's kind of like president, vice president. But there are some other constitutional offices that cover the entire state for the state. Who knows what they are? Who wants to take a guess? You can't answer.
I take that back.
State auditor.
State auditor. Yes, we just had Pam get up here and speak, and there's the state auditor. A-U-D-I-T-O-R. So let me do this. Keep things going straight. Time is it? Good.
Proof is gone.
Yes, the proof is gone. The first one, we talked about this, was the governor. And then there's the lieutenant governor. And then we said there's the auditor, A-U-D-I-T-O-R. This is the person that audits the finances for the entire state. Right? This is the most powerful executive person office in the state. And this is number 2. Who's the third most powerful person in the state? Statewide. Wait, you already back here.
Attorney General?
No, that's a good guess. You got number 4. It's called the attorney, ATTY General, Attorney General. But we'll get to that in a minute. The Secretary of State. The Secretary of State. The Secretary of State. This is the person who oversees all of the elections. This is the person that also oversees all of the registrations of your businesses. This is a very powerful position. Now, if something, God forbid, were to happen to the governor and the lieutenant governor, the power would go to the Secretary of State. You see how that works? After that, we have the Attorney General. The Attorney General is the person who works on behalf of the state and carries out the legal affairs of our state. If there is a lawsuit, if there is a problem, this is the top law enforcement officer of our state, right there. That is an enormously powerful position. This is the person that can take other people to court on behalf of the state. Have you ever heard of a lawsuit where they say Minnesota versus so-and-so, or Minnesota versus a company, or Minnesota versus another state, or Minnesota versus the federal government? Yes, we can sue the federal government. Who is it that carries out those duties? The Attorney General. That's an enormously powerful position. So these are our 5 constitutional offices. There are 5. Okay? And how long are those for? Oh, 4 years. 4 years. You guys following me here? Now, some of you already know this. I know that. But it's a good refresher. But some of you don't. This is new, and it's good to know. Because if you're going to, the first thing you have to do when you want to have political power is to know how the system works. If you know how the system works, you are miles ahead of anyone that you're up against. This is the basics. What I just shared with you in the last 14 minutes, I would say half of the people in this state don't understand. That's crazy. That's just the state level. Now on the federal level, remember we talked about our state government being modeled after the federal government? Federal government's the same. We have the executive, which is the president, and that's Donald Trump, right? And we have the legislative branch, right, which is the U.S. Senate. How long are the terms for the U.S. Senate? 6 years. For the federal, it's 6. For the state, it's 4. Don't ask me why. Okay? We have the U.S. Senate. Now, as we know, the presidential terms are 4 years. What's the other legislative branch? Remember, there's 2 houses. This is the upper house. We have the lower house. It's the House of what? Representatives. How long are those terms? 2 years. 2, just like the state. 2. Each state, there are 50 states, right? Each state is allowed 2 senators. No matter how big or how small your state is. I think the smallest state in the union is Rhode Island. I believe it is. They get 2 senators. The largest state with population would probably be either Texas or California, New York, one of the 3. There depends on who you ask, which day of the month it is. That was, never mind. Regardless, California gets 2 senators, and Rhode Island gets 2 senators. They all get 2. That's how they equalize power in the Senate. So if we have 50 states, how many senators do we have in the Senate? 100 senators. We have 100 senators. They all serve for 6 years, and the terms are staggered. So 1/3 of the Senate is always up for re-election every 2 years. They're not all up for election at the same time. So this year, there's every 2 years you're going to have, somewhere in the country, there are some senators that are going to be up for election. Now, if there's a vote in the Senate, we said there's 100 senators, right? But let's say there's a critical vote that comes up, and there's a tie. 50 say yes, 50 say no. What do you do? That's right, we said that first. You did. You get the prize. Whatever it is, you get it. The vice president, the VP, and who is our vice president? Mike Pence. Mike Pence has the constitutional authority to cast a tie-breaking vote if there is a tie. That's how that works. Now, that's on the upper house. What's the lower house? Remember we said there's a lower house here? We just talked about the upper house. The lower house, the House of Representatives, okay? The House of Representatives, I think it's 431 members? 435. 435 members in the House of Representatives. So we got 100 senators, 2 for each state, but we have 435 representatives, and each one serves for 2 years. That's based on population. Each House district, congressional district, Minnesota has 8 congressional districts, 8 CDs, congressional districts. So we have 8 representatives. Each representative serves 2 years, right? And it's all done by population, and it's roughly 250,000 voters. It's roughly 250,000 people per congressional district. That's a lot of work every 2 years for 250,000 people. I don't know how they do it. It's a lot of work. God bless them. Now, when the founders of our country put all of this together, they realized that there could be problems. One of the biggest problems that we could run into is if our congressional districts all are about 250,000 people, what happens every 10 years? I mean, do districts change? Do people move? Do some states gain people? Some states lose people, right? So every 10 years, they have to do a census, a nationwide census that they must do. And they do that. There's one coming up here in 2020. It's every 10 years. The last one was in 2010. They do the census to count how many people are in your state. That's very, very important because it also determines, once they get those numbers, it determines how many congressional districts you have in your state. And if your state gains population, you get more congressional districts, therefore you get more representation in the lower house. Okay? But what happens if your state loses population? Then you lose a seat. So it's very important for a lot. That's why you hear of some states that try to count anyone they can, whether maybe it's questionable, okay? Because they don't want to lose power in the federal government. So we have the president, we have the executive. We're talking the federal level now, remember? Federal level, we have the executive, which is the president, PT, President of the United States. We have the legislative, right? We have the two houses, we have the Senate, and we have the House of Representatives. What is this called? What's another term for this? The legislative, what's another term for this? What do they call this in the news all the time? You hear this word all the time. What's another word for the legislature? Congress. Congress. And just as a side note, what's a group of crows called? Congress. Don't ask me why. Okay? That's called the Congress. This is Congress right here. When they talk about Congress, that's who they're talking about. All right? We have the judicial branch, and that's the court system. Okay? That's how that works on the federal level. Do we have any questions at this time? Okay, we are right at, I want to make sure I cover all the major points here. And I did very good because I stayed on the topics here. So basically, every 2 years we're going to have an election in Minnesota. Every 2 years, every state of the union has an election every 2 years at a minimum to elect new representatives on the state, in the state house, and also in the federal house. If it's a presidential year, then we elect presidents. If it's a U.S. Senate year, we'll elect senators. This election cycle, this year, 2018, has been unlike any other year that we've seen in Minnesota since the 1970s. On the federal level, we are not electing a president, but we are electing 2 U.S. senators. We are also electing all 8 congressional seats, all 8 House of Representatives seats. All 8 are up for election. On the state level, we are electing every statewide constitutional office. The governor, the lieutenant governor, the secretary of state, the auditor, and the attorney general. The only thing we are not and every single representative in the Minnesota House of Representatives. I'm not running again this year for the Minnesota House. Otherwise, I would be up for re-election for that. I'm running for the U.S. Senate this year. You all know that. I'm not talking about that right this minute. The only thing that we are not electing is the state Senate, except for one seat. There was a situation where someone stepped down and there's an opening. So that's how that works. Every single elected seat in this state, except for the state Senate, is going to be up for re-election. This is an incredible year. And if you, as the Chinese American